I am Alejo Lopez. Welcome, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to 10 Minutes Astrology Podcast, the most easy way to learn astrology with professional astrologer. I'm Rod Chang.
I am Alejo Lopez.
Yeah, well, before we start, I want to remind you this Saturday on 23rd of April, 5 p.m. UK time, we invite Sue Tompkins to talk about health and astrology, a crash course in contemporary medical astrology. Sue Tompkins is not only great astrologer, but also homeopath practitioner. So if you are interested about health and astrology, it is a great opportunity for you. I will post the enroll link here, so just click, okay? So for last 3 weeks, we talked about personal planet, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. But before we move on another planet, we'd like to introduce house because, Alejo, they are quite important too, right?
They're super important, and I think sometimes they're misused. They are sometimes mixed up with signs.
Yes.
So it's important to know what signs are and what houses are.
Yes. Yeah, with respect, I mean, maybe is because I think our, what should I say, some older generation astrologers, some of them in their book usually mix house and the sign together.
So yeah, and they have to because sorry, yes, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So that's I think I don't know why, but so most people with little bit, if you just read astrology book and learning astrology, some of them always think house and sign are the same.
Yeah, and I think the reason is because of course there is some kind of overlapping. And in a book they don't have enough pages to express. So yes. I think they do it this way, and they trust that if you are really interested into this, you will be able to dissect which belongs to the sign and which to the house. I think so.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think for professional astrologer, we have to, learn the difference between sign and the house. So what is a house and how they started?
Okay, what is a house? So what I would say is, remember how we were looking at the chart before and we were thinking the chart, it has the horizon and it has the planets all over the place and everything. So basically, imagine the horizon picture the horizon in your head. And if you picture the horizon in your head, you can picture a semicircle on top of the horizon and another semicircle underneath, right? So that's going to give you a whole circle. So if that circle you divide it into 12 spaces, let's just divide this circle into 12 slides, let's say, like if it was a huge tangerine around you, yes, a pie if you want to. I was going to the healthier option, but let's use a pie.
Or French people will say camembert.
Exactly, a camembert, a huge camembert. And you slice the upper part in 6 parts and the lower part in 6 parts. And each one of these parts is a house. And what we are going to say is that the house will represent an area of life in which things happen. So the signs are, we're going to see this later, of course, the signs are we were talking about the elements. Let's say the elements is about how the planet is expressing itself or how the planet engage with the world. And in the house, instead of saying how the planet is acting, we're going to see where the planet is acting. So maybe it's acting in the field of relationships, maybe in the field of work, maybe in the field of, I don't know, your own house, I don't know. So each house will represent a different area, a different scenario. That's how I approach it. Usually.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because for, as I mentioned, when I was studying on my own, and I usually couldn't see difference between sign and the house. But when I went to school, went to faculty and study, then I started to understand there are different things. And like you, house, just as I just repeat what you say, house, I'm more focused on areas of life. I think that's for me, when I interpret the planet in the house, I usually say, okay, in what house? And that means in what area of his life this planet unfold itself. Yeah. So, but it is quite, so when next time, when we start to go deep to explain the house, I think we will really focus on the areas of life. But the house is quite interesting because you mentioned about the horizon. So I think we have to say the ascendant because I think when we beginning talk about this series, we mentioned about ascendant. So that is the starting point of the house. Yes.
Yes. So because the ascendant is pointing to the east where things start, right? Thinking, this is my rule to the way I remembered it when I first studied it. So that's where the first house starts. And then it's a bit tricky because the name, so each house's name is not like the signs that they have a name.
Yes.
Cancer, Libra, Pisces. They have a number. Each house has a number.
Yes.
So house number 1, house number 2, 3, 4, up to 12, right?
Yes. So
and it's a bit tricky. Go, sorry.
So it's like there's 12 sides, there's 12 houses. That's the point, start to get confused.
Yeah, because if you have 12 signs and 12 houses, so it could look like, they are the same. They're not.
Yeah.
And the houses we number them counterclockwise, right?
Yeah.
So the first house is the one that's, you start from the horizon and you go down. You go down the earth. And that's the first house. And then the second house is the following. And then all the way the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. And when you get to this,
So the fourth in the bottom of the chart. Fourth in the bottom, lower part of the chart. And when you come to the seventh, you back to horizon again.
Exactly. The seventh is back on the horizon. Yes. Exactly. And then the 10th house is high up in the chart. So, I mean, if you are only listening to this, what I think it's important to tell you now, it's not difficult to see it in a chart. When you cast a chart, the chart clearly marks which one is the first, which one is the second, and it has numbers.
Yes, exactly. Well, if you're still confused, if you need help, please come to our Facebook group. I will post a chart there as we use, and then you will clearly to see the number of a house is really marked on the chart and very clearly. Okay, so I think this is a little bit more slightly advanced, but I think some people will ask about which house system we are going to use, but we are not really going to tips because this is very beginner. So, I will just say, use what house system you get to beginning. And then when you're more familiar with astrology, you choose the one you like. But
I agree.
I think one type of a house system, which I'm using it called Placidus. And this is kind of could be quite popular, one of the popular house system people use. And another one would be the equal house. This is how we train when we both train in faculty. Faculty train in the equal house. But I think I agree this is the most easy one for a beginner. Should we just slightly explain what is equal house system?
Okay, equal house system. What it does basically is to divide a circle, so 360 degrees, into exactly 12 equal parts. That's why it's called equal house. So every house will be 30 degrees. So they're all the same size. So when you know the ascendant, when you know the rising sign, you can already calculate all of the houses.
Yeah. For example, if there is a chart, the ascendant is on 14 degree of Leo, then that's the first house in the 14 degree of Leo. Start from 14 degree of Leo. Then the second house will start from 14 degree of Virgo.
Because Virgo is the following sign, right? After
following sign, and exactly 30 degree after. So in this case, equal house is like every 30 degree, you draw a house, and it's starting from ascendant. And this is the most easy way to understand. And then I think from here, you can, start to read the chart. And if you are interested and learn other house system, you can see which house system you like most. But Alejo, there is also the way to group house, like we group the sign, right?
Yes, good. So we can group the houses sometimes they call it by strength, or I think it's more about by meaning. But so we can group the houses in 3 different groups, right?
Yes.
So the first group, it's going to be the 1st, the 7th, the 4th, and the 10th. So the first, house number 1, house number 7, house number 4, and house number 10. And we call that the angular houses.
Yes, we call it angular house. Well, very simple, but well, I think it's a little bit challenge for the beginner. But it is because it's starting from the angle, from the ascendant, from the descendant, from MC, from IC. That's how we call it angular house. So how about next group?
Next group is the second house, so house number 2, house number 8. House number 5 and house number 11. I'm going to the oppositions. Maybe I should say them 2, 5, 8, 11. Maybe it's easier.
Either
2,
way.
5, 8, 11. Yes.
Yeah. So
basically, if you notice, you pick one house with the previous example. We pick the first house, house number 1. You add 3, and you get to house number 4. You add 3, you get to house number 7. You add 3, you get to house number 10. So these are houses that are 3 houses apart, right? Basically.
Okay. Wow.
So it's 1, 4, 7, 10 is the first group, and the second group is 2 plus 3, it's 5, plus 3 is 8, plus 3 is 11. So it's 2, 5, 8, 11.
Yeah. So finally, the last group.
The last group, we start in house number 3.
Yeah.
So then it's going to be house 6, house 9, and house 12.
Okay. So it's still plus 3, plus 3, plus 3, plus 3.
Yes.
And but your first method is also quite interesting and needed to explain, because if you draw a circle, the 7th house is right opposite of the first house, and the 10th house is right opposite of fourth house. So they are opposition. So you say the 2nd house, 8th house, 5th house, 11th house, or the last one would be 3rd house, 9th house, 6th house, and the 12th house. I think this is one way to and it's traditional way. They measure it by what they think is with power, with force, with dynamic. Anyway, we don't, modern astrology, we don't really consider in that way, but it's okay. I mean, it's different interpretation. Well, I mean, this is quite interesting. So we start to look at the house, and some planet fall into some house, but I think people will say, ooh, what about if I don't have any planet in that house? Calm down.
Yeah, don't worry. We're going to see how planets act in that house, even if they're not there.
Exactly. So that would be a little bit more advanced once you understand the planet house, and then we have to understand the rulership, and then we can explain that. But I think this is quite enough for today, right?
Yeah, I think it's good. It's good for today. This is just an introduction for the houses. I would encourage everyone to look at charts. Just you can search on the web, astro chart, whatever chart you find of whoever person you have. And just try to see what the houses are and how they are named, and try to get familiar with these houses.
Yeah,
but we also
make a list. Like I have, but for example, use your own chart, and you can make a list. Like I have a sun in the 5th house. I have a moon in the in the 8th house, or something like that.
Yeah, that would be the exercise for this week. Look at your own chart if you can, and go house by house and try to list which planets you have in each house.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think it is quite important to understand the first things. The concept is the house and the sign are different, and then we will see. From next week we'll start working from the angular house. That's our first house, 4th house, 7th house, and the 10th house. Right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening and watch 10 Minutes Astrology. This week we learned something called house, and they are different from the sign. We really hope you enjoy this episode. Please like and subscribe. If you have any question, you can join our Facebook group, and also you can email us to the AOA.inquiry@gmail.com. Well, you can also find me on Instagram, AOAUK, and you can find Alejo at his Instagram,
Liminal Cosmos.
Liminal Cosmos. Well, so see you next week. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Action into getting it. We go and do what we need to do. It's about actions. We do what we want to do in order to get what we want, which is reflected in the mythology.